All right, and we're there. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the studio this evening. And let's get ready to paint part of my hometown, or the area where I live in, anyways. You can see that reference photo right up there. A little view of the Pacific coast here in California. I'll talk more about that picture in a little bit. I've got it drawn here on my page. Again, I'm using Fabriano Studio paper. Going through the supplies I'm going to be using. This is Fabriano Studio paper, 9 by 12 inches. I'm going to be using my King Art brushes again. Over here, my Color Around palette and my M. Graham paints. Let me put the paint colors up here for you. I think I can do that. There we go, down here in the bottom corner. And I guess we'll go ahead and get started. Liza, Natalie, hello. Welcome to the studio this evening. I'm going to grab a really big brush. What is this one? This is a size 16, and I'm going to start to paint a little bit on here. I like my skies to be a nice cerulean color, so I'm going to grab a little cerulean and mix it into my tray here. And I often have trouble with skies, so I'm going to help myself out by trying to do this a little bit wet in wet. It's very, oh my God, oh, Liza, you're saying my picture's very lovely. Thank you. All I did was push a button to, Mother Nature provided the rest of it, and it's one of my favorite places to go. This trail hugs the Pacific coast, and the trail's about 4 miles long, 5 miles long, not that long at all. Maybe not even that long, and it's just a lovely trail. All of it hugs the Pacific Ocean, just like you see there. What am I trying to say? I don't know what I was trying to say. The trail is actually about, I don't know, in some places 10 feet, in other places maybe 20 feet, actually above the ocean height. It's quite high up there. You can see just in the picture, and we'll get to some of the drawing here. There are some cliffs that just drop off in a sheer manner to get down to it. Thought I had missed this again, but with your time change, I did. Okay, good. Oh, with our time change. Time change really threw me off. I don't like the time change. I want to do away with time changes. Can we just do that? I think they're all horrible. I wish we didn't have any time changes. Yesterday, I was actually out here in the studio. I'm going to start on my stories really early tonight. How about that? Yesterday, I got home from work, got a little bite to eat, talked to the family, did a little bit of that. I'm like, I'm just going to go out to the studio, maybe do a little painting and relax a little bit. And I got out here, and I swear I felt like I was here for about 2 minutes, and I looked at the clock, and I was like, oh, man, I got to go to bed. It's getting late already. I got to go to bed. I got into the house, ready for bed, brushed my teeth, ready for bed, everything like that, and looked at the clock in the house, and I still had an hour until when I would normally go to bed. I'm like, oh, I'm the biggest idiot. I forgot all about the studio clock. Needs to be changed to, I felt, let's just say less than smart. So I went to bed anyways. I was tired. I was tired. All right, I'm just putting on some general color here. I don't want it to be too dark. We're going to go back over this with some other colors to lighten this up. Just want to get this general, it's kind of a meadow actually, feel to this. And it just goes on and on and on. way up here into the mountains in the back. If you've ever been to Central California, if you were able to, not that you can walk that far, but if you were able to, you could hug the coast and the hills look exactly like this all the way up until you get up to Hearst Castle from where I live. If you know what Hearst Castle is, that's where Randolph Hearst built his home here on the central coast of California. Randolph Hearst being a large, I was going to say industrialist, but he wasn't an industrialist. He was a newspaper man and a movie maker and a number of other things. And anyways, he's got a giant castle just up the road. You can walk all the way up here. During COVID time, I used to walk up here, and just around this hill, just around this hill, the first one that you come to, there's an abalone farm on the other side of that, which is really, you can't quite walk there, but you don't hear much about abalone anymore. That's one of those things that kind of was big in our history in the past and not so much anymore. I've got a few people here coming in. If you've got any questions, throw them out there. I like to answer questions. I love the interaction between you and I as I do these live streams. I'm just going to clean up my palette here for just a quick second. You can ask questions about me. You can ask questions about my art. You can ask questions about colors, watercolors, any kind of thing that you like. Like I said, I like to hear all kinds of questions. If there are none, I'm just going to keep right on talking, and I'm just going to keep right on painting. So I'm going to go with that, and I'm going to mix a little bit of ultramarine here with a little bit of cobalt, and I'm going to put on the ocean. Have I visited Hearst Castle? I have. I've been to Hearst Castle 4 or 5 times. It's an absolutely wonderful place. I went there. Oh, hello, Sherry. I went there. Well, it was a number of years ago now, but I went there for holiday time, for Christmas time, and it's interesting. It's different than any other time because they decorate the castle in period costume. Right, the castle is in costume. Everybody around is in costume. It's quite different from any other time of the year. And the tours go at night typically, so you can see the holiday lights all lit up. It's quite interesting. And if anybody is out here and they're ever able to get to Hearst Castle to see that, I would very much encourage it. It is kind of a really cool thing here, and I think it's only like $25 to go. It's wonderful. It's absolutely wonderful. See, I'm going to mix in a couple of different colors here. I don't want this color to be too dark. We're going to go back over this and give our ocean some different colors. Oh no, I've dropped a bit of water on here. I'm hoping, I've got some relatives coming in town for the holidays this year. I'm hoping to actually get back to Hearst Castle. So that'll be kind of exciting. Let's see. Yeah, and now I'm going to say this is going to sound terrible. I don't. I go up there at least once a year, and I never go to the castle anymore. I go up there to go visit the elephant seals. There's a flock, a herd, a gaggle, a group, a school, I don't know what you call them, a bunch of elephant seals that have taken to wintering on the Central Coast. They just showed up one year, and each year there seem to be a few more and a few more of them. And you can go there and visit them. They come right up on the beach, and the state of California has built some ledges, some walkways, and some ledges and whatnot to hopefully keep the people separated from the elephant seals. And they generally just kind of lay around and don't do a whole lot. They roll around and they fight and they soak up some sunshine, and that's about it. But they're loud and they're brash and they look different, and well, quite honestly, they do stink quite badly. But but I don't blame them for that. It's just they're just doing what sea lions do, I guess. And they are massive creatures. The big bulls will get to be, I don't know what they get to be, a couple tons. They're just giant beasts. But they're like animals, right? I mean, they are animals, but they lay around, and when they get up and they do things, they're entertaining. And so I love to go and watch them. Okay, I've got kind of a first layer of everything on here: colony or harem. Okay, a colony or harem of elephant seals. I would probably go. I know you're saying you can call either. I'm going to say if I were to do it, I would call them a harem, I guess, because each bull has more than one lady bull. I don't know what you call the females. I don't know. Let's see. Let's see. I have no idea what they're called. The lady seals. Um, the females. They have many lady friends, and that's usually what they fight over. Is they fight over affection of another one. The harem is the group of females around a up to 50. Right. I don't know if I've seen that many. But yeah, there will get to be large groups of them, and they get a little angry sometimes. All right, so let's see. I've got my water line on here, even though you can't really tell. It just looks like the ocean kind of extending off that way. But there's a little bit of a line there. I put a little bit of yellow all the way out over here. If you look at the reference photo, there's just a little bit of haze on the water, so it's out there. And the way I like to paint these distant hills is, I'm going to try to do this, and I'll get it a little bit more right than a little less wrong, probably. I like to paint the top of the hill, so this part up here, with a hard line, and then just blend it down. So the closer it gets to us, the further down the hill it gets, the lighter it gets in color. And then you do that with the next one in front of it, a bolder color up at the top, and just blend it down this way. And what it does is it has the effect of pushing those hills back a little bit. So I'm going to try to do that. Let's see. Natalie, what did you just say? So I've heard from an elderly friend. She said it's worse than high school. It probably is. They're mean. They are mean and nasty. Let's see. I'm going to go right in with my green here, my little green area. And I'm going to mix up a little bit of color, and I'm just going to drop a little bit of blue in there. And it's not going to be overpowering, but it's just going to be enough that that blue's going to make it seem like it's back further, right? And I'm just going to put a little line on here and see if I can't pull that down. And if I do it right, that's going to be one distant hill right back there. if I do it wrong, if I do it wrong, that's going to join the other hill right next to it. That's yeah. I'm just you know, just trying to keep it real. And then I've got this one out here, which I can't quite do yet because I can see. You can't see. It's not doing it. I can see there's just a little bit of shine on that. Just a little bit of shine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a little bit of this burnt umber and a little bit of yellow ochre. And I'm going to make a sandy color-ish. And because I know all of this down here is pretty dry, I'm going to drop in some beaches. What's interesting about all of these areas here, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about it. The sand, well, the sand oftentimes isn't really sand, but it is lots of times a slightly different color than the hillsides. And I haven't quite figured that out, why that would really be, but oftentimes that is the case. And I don't know if a lot of it is just from being exposed to the elements a bit longer, or if it's stuff that has been washed in with tides and not quite as much washed down these little cliff sides. And some of these beaches aren't even sand. Liza, you got a question? Throw it out there. I see Michael I. And that's it. And what's funny about these areas also is that you can walk on the beach right down here along the ocean, and one of these little areas will be, you know, brown or sandstone color. The next will be a blue-gray, like a bluestone. The next area will be a reddish tint. And I can't figure out for the life of me the geology of the area because it looks so different around every corner. But it does keep it interesting, and it does keep you guessing, and it does keep you wanting to figure it out. But it's pretty interesting that it's different everywhere. And Liza, I see you put something in there. I'm going to get to you in just a second. I'm going to put this on just ever so slightly damp. So if it wants to run from one color into the next, I'm going to let it. That's going to be okay with me. So I'm going to put... I'm going to extend this back just a little bit, kind of like that. These big craggy areas in here that's really interesting. There must have been at one point in time a few creeks that went in here and carved out a little area for themselves. And now the whole area just has these big crevices that run way back. It's so interesting to go and climb down and walk on. I really enjoy it. It's kind of neat. Oh, that's kind of cool. You can kind of see it there. I like that. Okay, let's see. Liza. This week, I opened a tube of watercolor from Winsor Newton, which had not been open for some time. I lost a lot of binder, which will happen, right? It just kept spilling out. Will the loss of it wreck my paint? No, actually it won't wreck your paint, because you know what you have with a paint that has no binder in it? A pan paint, just like you get in the little pan. That's the paint without much binder in it. It's just dried out really hard. Your paint will be fine. It might be a bit harder to re-wet from time to time, but you should be fine with no issues at all. How do I keep my binder in my paint? I don't think you do. You don't keep it in. Once it separates, it separates. But you can, if you put it into a pan like this, and they're still wet, you can mix them back together, and there will be some regrouping of the two, some mixing of the two, and they'll stay back together a little bit. Other than that, if they dry up and they get really too hard and brittle, you can buy some binder. I have some over here. I'll show you. Just give me a second. Is this it? Whoop, that's not it. This will work just the same. And this is what it looks like. This is stuff from Winsor Newton, and you can dab a little bit of this on your color, and that will help to keep them moist a bit, but they're always going to dry out a little bit more than normal. If you put it in a pan, you can add a drop or two of glycerin to help keep it. Yeah, so there you go. Same thing. Just you can add it right on top, and it'll keep it a little bit moister. But it's never going to go back to original, but you can keep it a bit moister. I've done that with, told you guys about my experience in, what am I trying to talk about? My experience in, not thrifting, garage sailing or estate sailing, where I have found many watercolor paints as I've gone to estate sales, and many of them, as you might imagine, have been sitting around for a while and have dried out. And so that's what I do is I will cut the foil off of the tube, and I will actually put it in a pan and put some glycerin, or this is gum arabic on them to help re-moisten them back up. It's not a perfect solution, but it's better than not having the color at all. Or you don't lose the color. What you do is you have it. It just gets really hard, and it gets hard to re-moisten with your brush. It takes a long time. I'm so jealous of your. A lot of people are jealous of my estate sale finds. It really helps, I have found, to live in a place where everybody likes to paint. I don't think there's anything to the fact that I find the stuff. I think it has a lot more to do with the area that I live in than anything. Okay, so there's my next distant hill here. You can see I've done the same thing. I'm just barely touching this edge to pull this edge over. I've done the same thing with this one that I did with that one, right? That one looks like it's way back there. I've got a lot more color out on the edge. I should do it with this side. A lot more color out on the edge out here, and a lot less in towards whatever that next feature is going to be. That next feature is going to be this hill. So if I have less paint here and a stronger paint here, it's gonna push that far one way back. Oh, Liza, your estate sales are duds. Oh, I hate to hear that. Like I said, I would love to take credit for being some estate sale genius or anything, but the real crux of it is that there are a lot of people who do art here. A lot of artists live in the area, and a lot of them. There are a lot of artists that live here, and they make their living as an artist, and so they've got to have lots of supplies. And unfortunately, where there are lots of artists, there are lots of artists that from time to time no longer need their art supplies. Let's just say it that way. Let's try to be as nice as we can today. Let's see. I'm adding a little bit of color here on these cracks and crevices. I should show you a bigger view of this picture. actually took this picture last year. Oh yeah, look, that makes it look now like it drops off. Boom, boom. I took this picture last year. My son and I hiked up this trail, and like I said, one of probably 100 times I've gone up this trail. There's nothing special about that. But right in the middle of this is this giant hill. Right, the trail goes right around it, doesn't go up to the top of it, and at the top of the hill is something that to me looks like a wishing well. And I finally talked him into going up there with me one day. I'm like, come on, we got to go find out what this is. Can't really be a well up there. Why would you make a well on the top of a hill that's, I don't know how tall it is, you know, a 120-foot hill? Why wouldn't you make the well down in a valley somewhere where you're more likely to find water? So we hiked up to the top, and once we got up to the top, I mean the views from here on the mesa. I'm going to call it a mesa. Nobody calls it a mesa, but basically that's what it is. On the top there are wonderful, but from the top of that hill, boy, you can see out into the ocean, you know, 3, 4, 5 times further because you're looking down on everything. It's so amazing. So I had to take a picture. So if you can just see right on the edge there, there's a bunch of rubble in the picture, and behind that, more towards me as I'm taking the picture, are even bigger rocks and bigger rocks leading back to that well. Let's see. What was my favorite score at an estate sale? Let's see. What was my favorite score? We're talking art purchases, right? Because I wear this today. My wife went to an estate sale. Okay, I know that doesn't really count for me, but I got the goods out of it. She went, and there was an Omega Seamaster watch there, and had no band on it. And now the watch is from like 1963. It's an old watch, but she got it for $12. So that might be the best buy we've got on any of them. But for me, the best one I went to in the next town south from me, an artist passed away and was selling all kinds of art supplies, and I got a stack of papers. They were 2 foot by 24 by 36, big sheets of Arches watercolor paper. I probably got 40 of them for $60 or $70. A very small amount. I was shocked and pleasantly surprised what they were selling it for. And yes, if you're asking, the watch is still ticking. It keeps wonderful time still after all these years. And I never want to get rid of that watch. It's a fantastic watch. Okay, this is still a little wet up here. Yeah. Oh, you're saying get out about the papers? I've still got a few. Let's see, where are they? I have them in a... they're on the opposite side of my desk, so I can't see them. They're in a big purple paper binder. Am I reconnected? Am I back on? Okay, it looks like I'm back on. My internet is going up and down. I was just about to ask about that. It looks like I'm having a little bit of trouble. I apologize. Okay, good. I'm glad I'm back. I'm glad you can all see me. all my statistics I have on this side of my monitor all dropped for a second, and then I got a little spinning wheel of death. I looked over here and saw that my broadcast speed was down to almost zero. So I apologize. I'm not sure what happened. I'm happy to be back. um, I don't know. I don't know what happened there. But we're going to forge ahead. Let's see, you bought your mom a Victrola made in 1917 and it still works. Wow. Wow. I won't tell you all of the stuff my wife has bought. She is the real treasure hunter in the family, and she has found some unbelievable things. I'm always shocked at what she is able to find, and she knows when to get there, I guess, or what to do. I don't know, but she finds some unbelievable things. Okay, I'm just kind of trying to think of what I want to do next, because I'm waiting for this area to dry, and I kind of want to paint, well, most of this in one shot, or get the next layer on in one shot. So I think I'm going to come over and do some of the water over here. She has a good eye. She does have a good eye. She, I think I've talked before, she went to art school, and so she knows a lot of art history, and she can walk into a place and know what paintings are good paintings, valuable paintings, I guess I should say. Not good as in good picture or anything like that, but a valuable painting, something I wouldn't know. I could look at it and go, I think it looks great, but it have, a $2 value on it, and I'd buy it for $200 or whatever. But she'll look at it and go, no, this is, so and so and blah 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 and whatever. I don't know how she knows any of that stuff, but she does. So she has found some extremely valuable things, and gotten them for pretty cheap. And again, I don't have any idea how she's keeps up with all that stuff, but I'm glad that she does. Okay, so what I've got here is a mix of a couple of blues. I'm just looking for the right consistency, really. A number of blues and some neutral tint, just to bring that color down a little bit. I look at the ocean here, and I see some turquoise in there. I have a larger image of it up. Let's see, maybe I can do this. Let's see. Let me show it to you for a second. You can see what I'm seeing a little bit larger, and then I'll come back and talk about it. So let me give you a couple of seconds here. Okay, and I don't have it hooked up so I can talk to you during that, but you can see there's some turquoise color over here, and there's like a light that comes in here. We're gonna try to paint some of that. Let's talk about consistency. All right, Liza, what's your question about consistency? Liza, I'm also gonna say I'm glad you're here because each week you come and you ask questions. I say I like hearing the questions. I honestly do. And I appreciate the fact that you come every week, and whether you necessarily want to know the answer to some of those questions or not, you ask the questions. And it makes my job easier and more enjoyable that I have a direction to talk about. So I just want to say thank you. I really appreciate the fact that you are willing to ask some questions to help keep the conversation going a little bit. So I put this color down, and then I realized I don't like that hard edge. I think Liza asked me a while ago, what's one technique I really wish I did better. I don't know if I said dry brush or not, but I probably should have said dry brush because I'm not really good at dry brush. I think the reason I'm not really good at dry brush is because I don't really practice dry brush. Beautiful scenery. Yes, who asked for a landscape? Yeah, and I know this isn't technically a landscape. This is a seascape. Um, it's funny. I asked my wife. I'm like, okay, they want to see they want to see a landscape. What should I take a picture of? Or what should I paint? I want to paint something from around here. She's so funny. She's like going, you can pretty much open your car door at any point on the drive home from work and take a picture, and it's going to be fantastic. I went, you know what? I was like, you're right. And so I did. Um, Eliza, you're good at that, and that's about it. I find that hard to believe. Find that hard to believe. Extremely hard to believe. Um, who said something about dry brush is hard on brushes, though. I think it definitely shortens the lifespan, but it's pretty. Yeah, it is pretty. I don't worry about shortening the lifespan of my brushes. Quite honestly, I used to be so hard on all my brushes. Never, never bother me to scrub with them all that much. Just one of those things. I was like, well, if you want to enjoy your brush and use it the way it's intended, sometimes you got to be a little difficult on your brushes. Thankfully, right? Thankfully, brushes are pretty inexpensive. Yes, I know there are plenty of expensive brushes, but there are plenty of pretty inexpensive brushes that are pretty good. And so, you don't have to worry too much about hurting a brush all that much. Okay, I've got a little bit of highlight coming through here. I'm gonna come back. I'm gonna darken in this area, and I'm gonna darken in some more out here. Actually, it looks like I got a big bloom starting right there, and I don't want a big bloom starting right there. So I'm gonna fix that, and the way you fix that is really a little extra water and a little extra feathering. But it does look watery. Sherry, you say, I live by the sea everywhere, mountains and oceans. They're right. Seascapes are more interesting. Oh, good, thank you. I'm glad you think so. Seascapes are, if I could speak at all, um, I would. Seascapes are more difficult, I think. Um, let's see. Susie's here. Susie is here. Susie, lucky you. We have oak trees and some forest in Maryland where I live. But other than that, it's houses and people. Houses and people are good too. Don't knock houses and people. Houses and people. There are lots of people have made some fantastic paintings based on just that alone. Oh, let's see. Couple weeks ago, all right, I'm gonna take this back a little bit. A couple of weeks ago, somebody had asked me about my color palette, right? Why did I choose these colors? Where did they come from? Why other than cost, perhaps? How did I end up with these colors on my palette? These are the colors that I could find when I was out purchasing paints. Right? There's always that. you don't know exactly when you're first getting something, and you got to give it a try, and you want to see what this color is like. I need a slightly smaller brush. And so there's always a little bit of trial and error. But as I worked through my trial and error, one of the things that I found was that these colors tend to play well with the native landscape here, so that if I ever do pull these colors out, and I'm going to be able to maybe not match the color of the surrounding, but I'm going to get pretty close to it. I'm going to end up with something that looks very much like the landscape that I'm painting. And when I put these together, I was doing quite a few landscapes. And I thought I would always paint a lot of landscapes. Although now I don't paint nearly as many. And so that's one of the reasons why these specific colors ended up in my palette. What are we talking about here? You should dedicate a brush to dry brushing. We've all got brushes we never use. I've got a lot of brushes I never use. That's a good idea. I should do that. That's a great idea. Have I ever gone through all my brushes with you all before? you you do know I'm a brush snob, right? I have way more brushes than I need. I love my brushes. I love that I have some that are just what I'm looking for. They're like a good friend. You just know what you're getting when you use them. And then I have some that I don't know why I've ever hung on to them because they're maybe not such a good friend, and they're just a brush. I don't know why I'm trying to futz around with this hill so much. I just want to give it more, I don't know, a little bit more something. It's a little closer. Maybe there's a little bit more. I don't want to put detail on it, right? But I don't want it just to be kind of nothing. Got this little area back here. Could fill in here with something. Let's just do this really quickly. Add another layer in here. That's obviously where the road goes through. It goes around and through that little thing there. And without doing too much, we can there we go. Now we've got another little hill in there, and I want to make sure that I pull this mostly out. I don't want that hard edge right there, because there's going to be another hill in front of this, and I want those colors just to blend down really nicely. I'm trying to think, do I have any other? I see all the brushes I have here on my table are the ones I really like, except for this one. Has anybody ever seen anything so crazy as this? I promise you this is an actual brush. This is just... I only recently found out what this was because I had never ever seen one like this before. But it is an actual type of brush, and people actually do use it. And what you use it for is, anybody want to take any guesses? I'll give you a couple of seconds. If anybody wants to take a guess. See, and I'll bring out its counterpart, which is right here. This is somebody's answer to a rigger, but because it has a belly on it, you can hold more paint in it, and so you don't have to go back to your palette nearly as much. You can load up your brush, the head of your brush here, the belly of your brush, with paint, and then it just kind of comes out that tip, and you can paint with it for a long time. So, but for the longest time, I saw that thing, and I'm like, what is that? I have no idea what that is or how you use that. I recently figured that one out. Do I use it? No. I don't use it. I don't use a rigger brush that often. So I would love to use it. I just don't have the need to. All right, so let's see. This is going to come towards us a little bit now. Our next little peak here, and I'm going to modify our colors a little bit as it's coming towards us. I'm going to let it get a little browner and a little more ochre-y. That's wild. You've never seen one like it. I had never seen one like it. Maybe we'll get some straight ochre. We get a lot of these ochre-y areas because, we don't get a lot of rain. I always thought it was funny. I live a mile from the ocean, and it's a big body of water, right? I grew up in Ohio, right? We've got a big lake right on the northern tip of us in Ohio. I know, weather cell goes over that, picks up water, gets off the lake, it dumps the water. I moved to the Central Coast, I'm like, cool. The ocean is just going to be like a giant lake, and we're going to get rain all the time. And I was here for about a year before it rained the first time. I was like, why is there no rain? It doesn't make any sense. But we don't get much rain, and so our hills will be green in, I don't know, April, May, somewhere in there, and then the rest of the time they're pretty brown. So a lot of pretty brown is kind of an understatement of what they look like a lot. All right, and so I'm going to bring all of this color, and with any luck, we're going to end up with something that... Did it disconnect again? It's been in drought in my area for the past 3 years. Our squash is very sweet. That's the only good thing coming out of it. We've been in drought condition here for, I don't know for how long, a long time. We just came out of it this year, and I think by this time next year we'll probably be back in it. That's just part of living here. But if you could harness the fog, you would be able to get gallons and gallons of water, I'm sure. Because we do get some foggy days. So you can kind of see what I'm going with, and because I'm painting this way, right, and I'm trying to connect these areas, we get some interesting striations, and it should help to push a lot of this back, right? Your eye may not initially recognize that this is a bunch of lines that run horizontally this way, but each one of those is going to add a little bit of depth, a little bit of depth. Uh-oh. Who who lives in a swamp? Susie, you live in a swamp? Oh no. That sounds terrible. I'm sorry that you have to live in a such a humid area. I look, I told you we have all kinds of fog. So our humidity is, off the charts, but for us, because we have all that fog, our temperature is always very low. And nobody ever believes me when I say this. A summer day here where I live is, I don't know, 70 at the most. it's it's pretty low. It's a pretty low temperature. Okay, cool. So I really like where this is going. I like our hills here. We could see a progression, and maybe I got a little dark here, but that's okay, right? Maybe I could add a little bit to maybe like the shadow side of this back here a little bit. We can always do that on our next layer. My only concern is that there's a lot of yellow ochre in here, and yellow ochre is pretty. It's not staining. It's not granular. It kind of just sits on the top of the page. I can't remember what I'm trying to say, but it doesn't soak in. And oftentimes, if you put it in and you try to go back over top of it with a glaze, sometimes it'll want to rub off. So we'll have to kind of watch for that. But then we get into this area, and I really like this. If we punch up the color here, make this stronger, and then maybe add a few layers of little bushes and stuff over here somewhere, some little patches of whatnot, it's going to make this, it's going to push this out. No, not opaque, right? You're right. Yellow ochre, most yellow ochres, almost all yellow ochres are pretty opaque. But I'm talking about like it's not a staining color. So if I use, grab this. If I use any of these quinacridones, right, quinacridone rose, don't I have another quinacridone on here? No. The phthalos, the quinacridones, they definitely stain the paper, and they don't lift off at all. But if I use like this yellow ochre, if I use sepia, we'll do it. If I use this maroon over here and I go to put another layer on, I can take that right off. I could re-wet this maroon and probably pull all of this off of my color chart. I could do the same thing with this yellow ochre. So they just don't, they're non-staining, I guess is the way to say it. They're very non-staining. And I really want to try to get some, whose suggestion was it to use a fan brush? I'm going to try to use a fan brush because I really want to get some sparkle and some color dancing across our water here. I'm going to try that right now with the colors we have here. And I've done this before with varying success. Duck is here. Welcome, Duck. Good to see you again. And so I'm just going to kind of try to... I don't know that it's going to work. I'm going to turn this upside down for just a second. I get a lot lighter line for sure. I don't know if it's exactly what I'm looking for, but I'll take it. I'll take it. Because then I can take my bigger brush and get some bolder color out of here and then go back around to the other sides and darken up a little bit around it. Wow, why do I have a giant brush? Why did I pick such a giant brush? Doc, welcome back to the studio. As always, if you have any questions, throw them out there. If there's something you want to talk about, let us all know. Love talking about things, and whether it be art or not, you know the drill. If you don't want to, that's cool too. I'm just glad you dropped by. It's good seeing you again. See, I've got some super clean water there, and I'm going to try to push some of this back. And if you just want to hear me rant on for a while, Doc, then you might be in luck. All right, look. Come in on this side. I gotta get even some more color than this. Is it starting to look like an ocean with some reflection here? Kind of hope so. I might have just ruined my I might have just ruined my water line. The ocean's got a little hump in it now. Don't mind that. It's got just a little hump in there. I blame the moon and the tide. I think they're conspiring to make it look a little funny. Oh, I don't know. I got to figure out how to paint water. I got to figure it out. Somehow it doesn't quite always work out like I hope it would work out sometimes, but that's okay. Margaret's here too. Margaret, hello. Welcome in. Welcome back to the studio. So good to see you again. Same drill as before. If you got any questions, please don't hesitate to throw them out there. They're all just having a good old discussion. Centered somewhat around the sites we see in and around where we live. Things we find at an estate sale and a few other things. Now I'm going to give a couple of bigger waves out here. I'm going to add some darker values, even darker values out here. And I'm going to hope that that's going to kind of blend in a little bit. I can probably live with most of that. We're also finding out that Michael's never going to be leading an advanced class in painting water. But the good news is, look, my bright spot is here. It's kind of there. You can see it. Make me happy. The little things in life that make me happy. All right, I'm going to turn this over. At this point in time, I'm using quite a bit of olive green. I'm going to use a bit of yellow ochre for this also, and I really want to strengthen our colors down at the bottom, right? I've turned it over so the colors at the bottom of our painting here. And quite honestly, if you were to ask me what the green is on the fields around my house, I would say they look very much like that. By the time summer comes around, that's pretty much the color that you get. that's it's there's no bright green, there's no dark brown yet. It's this dull green color. It's a deserty color for sure, but it's kind of a dullish green. Uh-oh, Margaret, do you know of any successfully preserving watercolor paintings from UV, dust, etc.? With oil paintings, you can see hundreds of years old and still looking pretty good, especially if they're varnished. Okay, so part one of that I read second is, do I know of anything for watercolors? So, kind of. I don't know of anything that's going to last 100 years, but it was not that long ago that I found some, I believe it's called Dorland's wax, and I can pull it out and show you what it is if you want to see it. You just have to give me a second. But you can put it on as a preservative, and it actually does pretty good. It will act as a UV protectant to your painting. So if you want me to see if I can grab it real quick, I'll do that. Let's see. Do you think anyone would be interested in preserving their watercolor paintings? Absolutely. I have watercolors from a former patient made in 1965. Wow, I hung in a place where the sun doesn't hit it. It's still standing up to time. Good, 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 good. Let's see. Yeah, watercolors are weird, right? Watercolors are weird because they don't hold up to UV light very well. I have a couple of paintings in my house that even though they've been kept in kind of a dark-ish room, they've faded quite a bit. And the number one thing you can do is pull out your old paint guide and open it up and look at the light fastness rating. Right, so these are all, well, these aren't all of them, but these are many of the M-gram colors, and this will tell you the light fastness rating. But this is the other thing that I have. This is Dorland's Wax Medium. So this is a translucent compound of waxes and resins. Let's see. It's an unparalleled sealing medium for protecting for a protective matte top coat for paintings, wood, paper, plastic, blah 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 blah. So basically, what you do is you take it, you dip your finger on it, and you smear it all over everything. I don't know that I would suggest putting it on a painting from 1965. But I have put this on a couple of my paintings, and the paintings have held up pretty well. So I'm not going to say it's perfect, but it's probably better than nothing. But that's Dorland's wax medium, and there are probably other things like this that you could buy. How about special UV glass? Absolutely. Low E glass would help. The glass I have on mine that have started to fade are low E glass. Um, I think that's one of those things that you're just always going to be fighting with watercolors, is trying to keep it looking vibrant and not faded or fading. And it's unfortunate, but that's the nature of the medium. That's also why you can buy a watercolor painting for, relatively cheaper than an oil painting, because the thought is that the watercolor painting isn't going to be around for another, 200 years. It's gonna be out there for a while, and then it'll be gone. It's much more ethereal than oil or acrylic or any such medium as that. I don't know if that helped, Susie. You've heard of archival varnish? I've never tried archival varnish. I would imagine it's the same thought, right? It's just a sealant, and whatever it's made out of will help to keep low. It's low E. It keeps the E's out, right? Keeps the harmful sun rays away from your painting. But I would imagine, so if it's a varnish, though, my concern with a varnish is that varnishes darken with time, and you probably would notice that your painting will just slowly darken and darken and darken, because that's what varnishes do, right? The Turner watercolors in Scotland are only on display once or twice a year. Otherwise, they're in the dark. Yeah. Such is the nature of the medium, and it it is what it is. It's 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 a double-edged sword, right? It's cool because we, as watercolor painters, can create something in a very short amount of time. It's going to look fantastic. It's relatively inexpensive. The downside is, right, ours will last, if you're lucky, 100 years or so. That oil painter's painting will, last several hundred easily. And when it needs to be refurbished because of dirt and dust, there are plenty of ways you can do that with watercolors. I'm not saying you can't do it, but it's much more. It's a much more difficult process. All right, I just wanted to re-darken some of my little cliffs here. Right? Come on back in focus. There they are. To make it look like, we can see what they are again. Actually, I want to give a little color all the way back here. Well, one of the interesting things that I have found is that anywhere along the ocean, there's always a tide line. Always a tide line. Right? You can put it in black like this. You could put it in white. But there's always a line there. And I haven't exactly figured out how that line gets. I mean, I know it's sediment in the water, gets washed up there, the rock gets wet, stuff grows on it, and it's always there. But it's it's weird that everywhere you look, there's that line there. Let's see. I tried oils once, got the paint all over my jeans, never did it again. That's probably what I would do. I still think of fading as something that makes watercolors very special. The whole FOMO thing. FOMO. The water reflection is looking very nice. Thank you, Doc. Susie Moon, I'm very good at oils and I struggle terribly with watercolor. I think 8 years of trying watercolors, I'll never. I love my oils. Oh, no, but so let me ask you this question. Oils, you paint much more dark to light. And I think that more than anything is the difficulty with watercolors is you've got to paint light to dark. And it's that getting your mind around doing it that way that I think is just as hard as anything. FOMO is... why do you do this to me? Let's see. FOMO is... I can't see it. Oh, give me a second. I gotta dock it back over here. FOMO, fear of missing out. I got it. Liza, my loves oil paint. Yeah, Liza, yes, it's a brain shift. Yes. Absolutely. And it's hard to do. You can do some simple things in watercolor and get away with not thinking that way. But then as soon as you start getting into some of those advanced things and you're like, oh, they say if you can paint in watercolor, you can paint with anything. That might be true. I don't know. We know my stance on that. Watercolors isn't that hard. It is a bit of a mind shift, but it's not that hard. Okay, so here's where I need to find some bravery. Right? I need to take a deep breath. I've got this painting. There's nothing wrong with this painting right now, right? It's a perfectly fine, idyllic ocean scene painting. We've got some nice fields here. But if you look in the reference photo, we've got some bushes there and some grasses and whatnot. And so I need to figure out, or I would like to figure out, how brave I am to put in some of my own brushes and grasses there. You can fix mistakes with everything except watercolors. Some of that is true. Okay, so let's see. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here very slow. In fact, I'm going to put some more blue in here. This is going to be further out that way. Right? And let's get a little bit more. There's some distant, come on, get some color coming off of here. There's some distant weeds and reeds and whatnot out here. Maybe there's a brush or two back here. Some stuff out here maybe. I want to jib and jab my brush out here. I don't want to make anything too big, right? These are all really little things. Maybe just a little bit around the edges of these. It is kind of funny that walk on a trail out here and the trail will have just giant cracks in it that you could step in because the ground has gotten so dry and it's all come apart like this. But then you move over to the cliff side and you can kind of see it in the picture there. There will be greenery that's kind of growing right over the edge. So it's really kind of an interesting thing. Get some more brown in here. Sherry, I am with you. I like the magic of watercolor. You can do anything with watercolor. What's really cool about watercolor, right? You do get these magical kind of things going on, but you can paint watercolor in any style that you want. You want to paint really tight, really traditional, watercolor's got you covered. You want to paint really loose, really out there, shoot, watercolors doesn't mind. You can paint just like that if you want. You want to paint anywhere in between, somewhere where I fall, between, realist and impressionist paintings. Yeah, cool. Watercolor doesn't care. It'll let you do that. That's really is one of the magical things about watercolors is that any style you want to paint in, it's got you covered. Paint some stuff just going down in there. So true. It is. There's no other medium in which there is such a variety of paintings. Right? Acrylic, you can kind of do it. You can water them down, and you can, approach some of that. But you don't get any of the transparency. The flow just isn't quite right. If you can get your hands on 100% cotton paper, you can fix mistakes. You can fix mistakes on not 100% cotton paper. Just sometimes it's, finicky. It's sometimes a bit more difficult. Understanding the medium, right? Fixing a mistake isn't always just throwing some water at it and trying to wash it out, right? Sometimes there's a lot more to fixing things than just that. So before we just say, well, if you could just, or I'm sorry, before you say you can't fix mistakes because of whatever reason, there are lots of times that people can fix mistakes, and not the least of which is not calling your mistake a mistake, but an enhancement. Right? Working around something. We do it in other areas. If you don't want to see a mistake, right, then it becomes an enhancement. It becomes a different feature. Then you're not doing a replication of something, but you'll be doing a similarity to. That didn't make sense. Now, see, this is where I really like using the fan brush. I want to put some grasses up here. The fan brush works beautiful for grasses. Look at those beautiful grasses in here. Let's give a little bit in there, too. That part, I will admit that I learned from Bob Ross. That little bit, using the fan brush for grass. You, who's, wait a minute, wait. Sherry? Wait, wait. Who's, where did I just saw Sherry. Oh, Sherry, that's my goal for this. Liza, that's your goal for this winter, to try to fix every watercolor you've wrecked. I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing with you. I've tried. I've got a lot of water. Look, I've got a stack of watercolor paintings over here. I've got a stack up there. I've got a whole shelf full over there, and I pick them up every now and again because I'm like, I'm just gonna fix this. I know I can fix it, and I don't. You try and you try. I'm just trying to add a little bit more. This is a little maybe too, I'm going to call it staccato in here. So I'm just in this area, just adding some up. I don't know how to describe it. right? Some of these are grasses in here, and there needs to be something more than just a little mound in here, but not much. These are back there a little ways. Maybe they're hard to see, right? There's maybe a little bit more. I'm not going to put anything there. And see now, I don't feel like this grass is dark enough up here. It needs to be. It needs to be darker. Be bold with it. See some color. I need to follow my own advice and be bold. Don't be afraid of the color. Put some color on there. Look at that. I said I wasn't going to put any there, and then I put some there. I need to real slight, real slight. I do it. Little bits of grass here and there. Yes. I can be delicate sometimes. Oh, look, bolder, bigger grass here. Much better. Much better. Now, there's always some stuff on the beaches, just hanging out, some flotsam and jetsam. Put a little bit of that here. There's always some stuff hanging out. That's the part I like. And I don't know. I think we're pretty done with it. That's it. It's a landscape. Seascape-ish. You're going to resurrect. Sherry, you're going to resurrect your fan brushes. Good. Good for you. Okay. Let's see. Where do I start with this? Okay, so some of the things I like. I like, give me a pointer. I need a pointer. I'll use a big brush for a pointer. All right, I like my distant hills. Look at how far back this one ended up looking, right? That looks like that's miles back there. That's way back there. That little extra bit of blue really pushed that. I mean, that really pushed that back there. Right? And then this one is obviously in front of that, but not as close as this, obviously. Like I said, that little white layer right there, and that little white, and this little white layer, and the same thing here, but we're further back, so it's a little less pronounced, really helps to make a lot of separation between these two areas, right? The separation between these two. Actually, even this in here, right? That little white area makes this seem further back. It just pushes it back a little bit. Okay, I don't think we stuck true to our reference photo there, but we're close. We're not far off of it. I like the grass in the foreground. I like the little bits of grass here and there, or bushes, or whatever these are. They're actually like brambles out there. Here and there, I like them. I was hoping, right, bigger here, little smaller, real small back here, and then you can't see anything back there. See that my light area came in. I didn't know. I figured I could do this pretty easily. It's not white, but I was hoping I'd be able to come back in and do some dry brush and put on some sparkle and make a hard edge there, and then I'd make it darker over here. I like the darker area over here. I like the darker area over here. I'm just not sure that my fan brush technique through here really helped out a whole lot. I don't dislike it. It's just an area for improvement for me. Let's say that. I like the beaches down here. I like the cliff sides here. It does, each one of those as they come towards you adds a layer to the painting to help bring the bottom of it forward to us and push the middle and background back further. So I'm really happy about that. I like the little areas of grass in here. Maybe I could have dropped a little bit more back here, but I like the little areas here. They do help out a little bit. I I like doing this. I might, Liza, I think you were the one who asked if I painted any different styles. Now that I'm doing this, I might do some more kind of more impressionistic paintings. Maybe I can revive that a little bit. To see if I can bring that back. That'll be a fun experiment, I think. So maybe that's the direction I'll go in for the near future. I don't know where I'm gonna sign this. Right about here, I guess. Oop. Close enough. I'm gonna sign that. And with that, I'm going to call this little painting on the Central Coast of California done. I had a great time with all of you here this evening. Liza, Sherry, Susie, Duck. I don't know, was there... Natalie's here. Who else is here? Margaret was here. Geez, so many of you. I'm not even sure anymore. So many people. Thank you for making my Wednesday night enjoyable. I'll be back here next Wednesday. I might have to take some time off around Thanksgiving. I have some family coming into town, or maybe they want to join me and be on the video with me. Maybe I can talk them into it. But let's plan on a more impressionistic painting. Maybe I'll do something from my town, a little street scene or something like that, or another, beautiful picture from the area in which I live. Anyways, until then, next week, thank you all so much. I enjoyed having you all here, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.